Okay, great. So thank you everyone who is continuing on with us this morning, and to anyone who's just joining for this session, welcome to today's conference. Our next presenter is Kaneen Reese. She is the Chief of the Dissemination Outreach Branch of the Census Bureau. Kaneen is responsible for the communications and outreach efforts for the Census API, the Microdata Access Tool, and the data dissemination platform, data.census.gov. Kaneen has joined us in previous years, and we want to thank her for returning to provide information and updates about these important tools. Welcome, Kaneen, and thank you for joining us today.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate it. I'm always excited to come to the state data centers, and the Pennsylvania one is always very exciting and with lots of good content. So I appreciate you having me. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
We can see it. Thanks, Kaneen.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm coming to you from the dissemination outreach area that we've talked about before. Just a quick reminder, I know so many of you, we've seen your emails and your feedback, we really appreciate it, but I also know that there's some people that are new to data.census.gov, may not be looking at census data as frequently, and now that we have Census 2020 results, marching towards those, giving you kind of a refresher. So I wanted to start at the beginning to make sure that we're kind of all on the same page of what we're doing and why it's different than what we have been doing in the past. Well over a year ago now that we have decommissioned American Fact Finder and moved to data.census.gov. I know that that's been we definitely had some bumpiness, and nobody wants to have to learn a new system. But the bigger picture of kind of why is important to me. It's this left-hand side picture, is that we're all utilizing the Census Data API, which is our application programming interface. Many of you, I know that the Pennsylvania State Data Center has done a lot of great work using dashboards and pulling from our API, but it's allowing for individual estimates that allows for all the things that you see on the right-hand side. So before, when we just delivered static tables, so everything was table-based, and if we wanted something within a map or within some other form, individual numbers or maybe a dashboard, we couldn't do that. We have to deliver different data sets. So with utilizing the API, it allows for not only these individual estimates like you're seeing in those visualizations of the types of disabilities, but you're also seeing the tables. You still get your tables, and then you can also see some great mapping features. So all of that's kind of the basis of what we're doing, and with that, is making sure that we get all of our data transferred over into the API so that it is able to be presented in all those different ways. Not just for me, but what I just said, that other people are using it for their own dashboards as third parties. We want people using it as much as we do. But if you don't have the skill or knowledge or even time to produce those things, that's what data.census.gov is that we're trying to get to where we're producing those for you based on your feedback and the things that you are requesting or asking for. So that's kind of this big transition. We're using the agile process of software development, meaning that we're constantly asking for you to review and provide your feedback, see how you like it. Only because we've gotten in that before, where we ask and then we were quiet for 4 and 5 years building something, and then we release, and it's just not hitting the money what people wanted. Maybe it's because after 4 or 5 years they've changed their mind about what they want, technology's changed, or maybe we just built it not necessarily understanding what people wanted. So all of those things are why we have kind of short bursts. We have 2-month cycles where we build and build and build, and then we release to the public, hoping that it's good enough that you can review and provide comments and tell us, yes, I like the way that you're going, or this is wrong, or there's problems with that, so that we can the next 2 months either try to expand on what we've been doing or maybe try to correct the mistakes. So we appreciate all your feedback, how helpful everyone has been. I know we get lots of of emails and calls and are in contact with a lot of people from Pennsylvania, and we do really appreciate it. All right, from here I wanted to go into kind of what we're doing, our demo. So I want to give you a demo over a big cast a big net. We're not sure who's all, you know, we know we have some great expert users, we know we have some beginners, so start at the beginning and then maybe get a little more technical. And as always, if you have questions, let me know. At the end, we'll have some time for it. Or if you're thinking about it or working with the site, you can always send me an email and I'll get back with you. But first, wanted to start with just getting started with census data. If you're brand new, trying to look at something, we go to data.census.gov, which is the site. It is the same as the URL. So bring up the site. If you're just looking for something in general, like a geography, like Pennsylvania, never realized you can't spell things until you have to spell it in live audience. But this takes us to what we call our all results page, because we're trying to get away from just a table view. We know that there's lots of ways that people are ingesting data. You know, some people are downloading everything and they just want it in flat CSV files so that they can manipulate it themselves. Some people want a traditional table. Some people want visualizations, some people want mapping. So we're not sure what people want, so we're trying to give people an options. Go to tables or maps or even web pages. You can scroll down and find these. So, you know, your basic table, or on the right-hand side is our profile that I know we've shown you before. We're trying to, we're doing some work on it so that we can integrate it and make it align with our search return. So everything always gives you the same estimate back. This is not an issue most of the time, but when you start talking about data availability versus a traditional way of pulling summary levels, you know, case in point, New York City. We want to give people the most recent estimate of New York City or Pittsburgh or Philadelphia. We want them to have 1 year estimates, you know, yearly estimates from the ACS, but in a lot of places wouldn't necessarily. So when you're looking at summary level base, a lot of times it just defaults to the 5 years. So trying to align that is what we've really been working on. But this just gives you a nice overview of an area. This is available for nation, state, county, and place. You can also go in here if you wanted to change in, look at Pittsburgh. You can go in. It leads you back to this all results page. This is kind of our hub, and you can go in and check out the profile pages for Pittsburgh or any other place that you're looking for. So wanted to show you that. Also the advanced search place page, how you can kind of flip through and look at things, pulling up tables, looking at maps, and then also pages, which is something very recent that we're working on, which is part of that integration. You know, eventually we will be the search that takes over for census.gov. So when you go in, you won't have to go to a separate site of data.census.gov. You just go to census.gov. When you go into search, you can find all of these things. So we're still working on that integration piece with census.gov. This is kind of one of the steps to it, is making sure that we're returning estimates from census.gov and making sure that those, you know, make the most sense, you know, freshness and relevancy wise. All right, so that's kind of a basic walkthrough of just if you're looking for basic sites. Let me go to the next one, is comparing over time. Something else that people ask for a lot when people are looking at maybe one geography, but they want the ability to see not just today, but how has this changed? Has there been any change between years? And this is where the American Community Survey, one of our surveys, has something called comparison profiles. And I bring this up because this allows, some people do know about our products and they know about our table IDs. And so I would go through all of these presentations and think I'm killing it. And at the end, they would just ask the basic question of, can you search by table ID? So we might as well just talk about it when we first look at it. So I'm going to search by table ID and then also show you how to customize some table views, save your results. We're going to use the example, like I said, of the comparison profile, so it's CPO4 and CPO3 for the income ones, and then just using an example of looking at median rent and even some income over time in Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. So let me switch back over. And before we get to advanced search, which are those drop-down experiences, I'll just type in CPO4, which is that table ID search. Remember, if you don't know your table IDs, that is just fine. I'll show you something else soon coming into. But I'm going to choose the table for CPO4. And I actually didn't even specify a geography, so I'm going to show you how to do that with customized table. So you go in here, and I personally like being able to be given a bunch of options on what I want to do. Not only are the notes of the tables available, but you can go in and pick your geography from there. So we want Allegheny County. I'm going to scroll down to Pennsylvania, Allegheny County. It populates with what we call a chip right down here. I'm going to close. It populates. And there's some other things that you can do from this. You know, you could transpose the tables if you wanted to, which basically makes everything vertical, horizontal, or not, because it's very, very jarring to see a hierarchical table like that. And then you can just do other things you wanted to, just the same as if you were to use the advanced search right down here. But back into the table and the customization. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to hide some of these columns, because as I look at it, there's a lot. This is a 5-year comparison, and I really want to be able to comparison kind of, you know, between 2019 and 2015 to get the largest period of time comparison. And I could definitely scroll back and forth and see what I'm looking for, or I could go in and click on the hide button and just hide some of the columns. And all I'm leaving is 2019 estimate, 2015 estimate, and then the statistical significance between the 2019 and the 2017. And what this is this asterisk just means that if there's an asterisk there, there is a statistically significant difference between those 2 years. So you can say something is increased or decreased. So going through, we talked about, you can X this out if you'd like, just reminding people to send feedback. We talked about median rent. I'm going to scroll way down because these tables are large. Median rent in 2019 in Allegheny County was $911 for median rent. And then in 2015, it was $877. There is an asterisk there, which means there's statistically difference between those two numbers. So you can say that there has been an increase in the median gross rent in Allegheny from 2019 to 2015. So that's really nice to do, and a way to be able to do some research purposes right here. There's other things that you can look at. You might want to expand the table because sometimes our labels are really long, and look at what we call GREPI, which is the gross rent as a percentage of household income. You can look at that. Things that are less than 15%, 35% or more, which is one of the ones people look at when they're looking at how much people are spending on housing in comparison to their income. This one is 33.9% in 2019, and it has decreased since 2015, which was 37.9%. So just some nice ways to give pre-tabulated tables to do some comparisons over time. And then the last thing I wanted to show you, actually two things, I lied. So we talked about wanting income. So CPO3 is the economic one. So go up to the top, you can actually just type in the table ID, but the really nice thing is that it keeps your geography. So it stays even though you put there. In the past couple of years, there's been a disconnect between that. It would break everything and you just have US. So it's now available. If you actually wanted to clear off something completely, you can hit the logo. But right before, I wanted to show you one last thing. It's just if you want to go ahead and keep that table, all you have to do is cut and paste it. And that really helps as far as not having to create deep links or anything. So you still get the table that you're looking for when you cut and paste it that way. All right, so that's enough of that. I'm going to clear everything by going back to the logo, and I'm going to go back to questions. All of these are my slides that you'll get that just show the steps taking in the demo. So if you forget what all I'm saying, you can always reference these back. But the next question is about comparing across geography. So wanted to look at using all census tracts in Beaver County. One of the nice things about looking across geographies is to use the mapping function. It's very nice to see those visual representations. So wanted to talk about kind of searching by topic, so using those that advanced search, and then also mapping and then download. All right, let me switch back over. All right, we talked about clearing it. So instead of using the single search bar, I'm actually just going to click on the advanced search. This takes me to advanced search that allows for all of the topics kind of collapsed into one area. So just so you know, you might want to go through and visit and look around if you haven't, especially with the topics. We've had to make some changes in the last several years. But if you go to topics, I'm looking for an older population. We talked about older population of 60 and over in for all tracts in Beaver County. So I'm actually going to go in and do population and people and click on the older population. And then I'm going to go to geography. We wanted tracts. Scroll down to Pennsylvania. And then I'm going to choose Beaver County, and then I'm going to do all tracts within Beaver. It's there. I'm going to do a search, and it pulls up a recommended table. You're looking at an older population. Here's a subject table, SO101 for age and sex. There's lots of other ones I can choose if I wanted to. Personally, I like the subject tables because it gives you those nice percentages along with it. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to check out. I could go directly to the map, but I just want to check out and make sure my estimate's in there that I've been looking for. Sometimes it's really nice to visualize for me the table before I go in, but I could just switch directly to the maps. But just making sure that my estimate is there, that I'm looking at 60 and over for the percentage. And from there, I can click on maps. It's going to refresh and take you there. And then this feature is a little bit different. We've done some mapping improvements in case you haven't seen it. This allows just a much larger drop down to be able to see the table. But see, it's just a linear list of all in the table. So for me, because I especially have all the hierarchy, I like to see the table first, but it's all here if you'd like to switch back. And I'm going to scroll down to percent, and then I wanted percent, and it was 60 and over. So I'm going to choose that. It's going to populate, and you can see that the larger number has the larger, or excuse me, the darker color is the one that has the larger percentage of a 60 and over population. So you can see the dark areas over here. What's nice too is there's a drop down for years. So if you'd like to see some bigger changes, maybe do that 2015 and move and see the different years. You can do that. Then from there you can go back if you wanted to go back to 2019 as it's populating. I like to customize the map sometimes because one really nice thing is when you're looking at one estimate across geographies, it's really nice to then view the table and then see it in a table display. We don't have the MOEs, which I've been hounding them about adding, but it is nice that you could put them in somewhat of an order so that you can see. I would like the ability to print this. We don't have that next yet. You can also do things like, you know, equals, not equals, if you wanted to range from there. And from here, you can actually go back to the full table. And if you look, it's really nice that all of the tracks are available in the table display. But if you wanted to maybe download or Excel or put it into an Excel, show you the two differences. So we have something called download, and then we have something called Excel. It used to be export to Excel, and they're two very different things. So let me show you the differences. So when I click on Excel, export to Excel, and let me show you what it comes up. It comes up as more of a table display way. Open the file. Go. And then you see all of the qualified information that's there, and then you go to the data, and it shows it as a basic table. It gives you the information, looks very similar to the table that you had before. You can scroll it over, you know, to print it out and see things and make sure that you have, you know, some people like to do some manipulations with these tables. All of those are available to be done. So that's called export or Excel, export to Excel. I'll never get the name right once they changed it. Now we have something called download. Now when you click on download, it is very different. You still can get a CSV, but it's going to be in a flat file. You could choose different years if you'd like, but it's going to be in what we consider to be a flat file. And that's very different. That means that every geography is on one self-contained line. This is perfect for data manipulation, computer ingesting, all of those things that are great unless you want to show somebody what a table view of the data looks. So let me show you what it looks like, just so that you're aware that they are two different things. I think I clicked on it. Okay, here we go. So this is a computer's dream to look at something like this. Gives you all of the fully qualified information, and then each estimate tells you what it is, and as you go from column to column, great information, but again, two very different things. This, if you wanted to do more table manipulation, is perfect, but if you're looking for something that's more table display, you would want to do this down export button with Excel. All right, so I showed you that. Last thing I did want to show you was, we've done all we can with that one. All right, so the next one I'm going to show you is our slide deck of business data. So people searching by industry. We have an example of travel accommodations for Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania Metro, showing you how to look at some of those NAICS codes and some of the other codes. So I'm going to go back here. I'm actually going to bypass the single search because I want some very, very specific numbers. So I'm going to go to advanced search. I'm going to go to geography, scroll down to metropolitan statistical area, micropolitan statistical area. I could scroll forever, or I can type in, I'm gonna get the Pittsburgh metro area, and then I'm gonna go to codes. This is where the NAICS are hidden, as well as material commodities, material and food codes. Click on the NAICS codes. I'm going to scroll down to 72, which is the accommodation and food services. And then it's just the typical getting finer and finer and finer as you're adding more. So 721 for accommodations. Here's my traveler accommodations. But you want to make sure that your final destination has a click, has a checkbox. So that's what populates down here. Then I'm going to do a search. pulling up a couple of different options from Business Dynamics, or I'm just going to choose CBP, which is the County Business Patterns. And this can give you some basic information about traveler accommodations in the Pittsburgh metro area for all establishments. As you scroll over a little bit, getting the numbers, and then number of establishments, annual payroll, first quarter payroll, and then finally the number of employees. So just a different way of looking at stuff. We look so much times we look at just demographic data, but also letting you know that there's a lot of business data available too. All right, back to my slide deck. All right, one thing I wanted to show you really quickly, our resource page. We talked about how the data are, or excuse me, the data.census.gov are still in the process of developing. You know, we're getting better every day, but we're still not 100% what people have been asking for. So we are improving and trying to improve and pivoting where we need to. So because of that, people need to know how to use the site from where they are. So let me show you how to get to our help button. So if you clear that right here, there's a help button. And then there's also feedback, which sends you to our email address. But our help button right here takes you to our resources page. Just wanted to show you a couple of things that we do, updates. So there's guidance for data users so that you can, on the left-hand side, that you can then go and get materials and PDFs on how to use things. One thing we've definitely learned with outreach and communication on something like this dissemination platform is all kinds of different learners and how people understand things as well as people's abilities. So some people might like a video, some people might like a phone call, some people, you know, try to do it themselves with a PDF. So we have some frequently asked questions along with the PDF that go to some questions that might be able to help you. We also have video tutorials. We do short snippets of kind of showing you how to access things, as well as our full webinars, which are, you know, 30 minutes or so of walking through either, you know, recent updates, or for here it's how to find some race and ethnicity data on data.census.gov, Q&A and that type of thing. If you go back to data.census.gov, this resource page, we've also have some of the developmental updates. So our latest releases, the latest data releases, we had a released very recently. We're still waiting for that update for the release today. Then we also have developmental updates, those code updates, so that you can see the latest that's available. And the new things, especially if you're a very frequent user, you can start watching those kinds of things. And then outreach, if you have any questions for us, please let us know. Love to hear from you. And our feedback is right here, email. The last thing I think I wanted to show you was MDAT. So switch back to our slide deck, show you what I'm talking about. All right. So we've gone through the tabulated data in data.census.gov. That's what the data providers have put into estimates, have created estimates from you know, the survey and program results that have been created. But sometimes people want estimates that are just not available. So what if you can't find the estimates you need? We have something called Microdata Access, or what we call MDAT, which was a completely internal name that now everybody knows about. So of course everyone calls it MDAT. But just showing you what this is, it's on data.census.gov/MDAT. You can actually get it on either by putting this in the URL or scrolling down to the bottom of our landing page, and there is a section on microdata access. But from here, you would access our public use microdata, and this is really just a tool to help you. So instead of having statistical software or other ways of programming using our microdata using our microdata, using this tool just helps us do it on our end. I know that you know, my home computer, when I'm doing my own research, I don't necessarily always have the storage to download some of these bigger PUMS files, and so it's nice to be able to have somebody else doing it. Okay, so we went over a little bit of what that is, but basically it's just a tool. It's not new data. The data are available already on many FTP sites that we have. We just also have them delivered to us and then make it the data available in our tool for ease of use. And it's to create these custom tabulations. So if the estimates aren't available in these tabulations, what do? Well, you've got these PUMS data that you can make some tabulations from. So if anybody was a user of Data Ferret, that was something that we had years and years ago. It was decommissioned because it was just so old that the plugins weren't supported by browsers anymore, but we still had people holding on to really old browsers so that they didn't have to decommission it. But we did finally decommission last summer. We have finished our first phase of the development of the site. We're continuing to work on some of the older data migration. Things like current population surveys have a lot of older data, and we have some older SIP data. But we're kind of finishing all of that up. The next phase is kind of integrating more with data.census.gov. So maybe when you go in and do a search, if you're looking for a search on Pittsburgh, maybe that's an option as well, that you can not just look at tabulated tables or maps or the web pages, but you can also look at MDATA, or at least be aware that there's microdata that are available for that. Same thing with like topics like poverty or something, that you can still, here's your tabulations and here's the web pages and more information about the methodology. Or if you can't find there, here's microdata access. So that's really about doing search, but also integrating with the code base at data.census.gov. So let me show you how this really differs. So if we use an example, if someone is looking for I guess the easiest example would be something like a web developer. I'd like to know how many male web developers are in Louisiana in 2016. This table on the left-hand side gives you an idea of what's tabulated and then released. So all we have is the rolled up version of how many computer and mathematical occupations are there. So it's 18,459 males who are in computer and mathematical occupations in Louisiana. But that doesn't help if I really want to know about web developers. So this allows you to do to drill down into the microdata at a higher geographic level, like state, to be able to get into those more detailed things like occupation. So for here, we're able to find out that there's the amount of people that are 1,030 web developers, or male web developers in Louisiana. So a few things, and then I'll show you a quick demo using Pennsylvania. But with microdata access basics, it's just important to know, to check first if there is a pre-tabulated census table. The PUMS file is only a very small percentage of the data that are collected from our surveys, and so that it's not going to be as precise as data that have been collected on the full file and tabulated, and then the statistical significance has been calculated, and those statistical inaccuracies have been added within our replicate weights. So you always want to use a pre-tabulated table if you can. And if you can't find it, that's great. That's a great option for microdata access. The next is that it's only available for large geographies. You're not going to find this for tract level. It's going to be for US states. And then sometimes like ACS and decennial will have PUMAs, which are areas of about 100,000 population. And then another thing just to know, and something you'll see in just a minute, is just the idea that you're creating tables at a variable level. So it's not the same thing as finding a table. And most of the questions we receive are really about survey questions. So I'm going to sneak over really quickly just to give you an idea. This isn't a full presentation, so I'm sure if this just gives you an idea what it looks like, and then please let me know if you have questions. But just going to go to, to data.census.gov. You scroll down and here's for Microdata, it's /MDAT. We're just going to use ACS 1 year for 2019. And these are when you select the variables. So we wanted males in Pennsylvania for a web developer. So we're going to need occupation. And so we're going to get the occupation recode. If you look at this, there are 531 values to all of this. That's a lot. But I'm going to click and choose it. And right here it gets populated. Now I'm going to put in sex because I did want males. So I'm going to click on that. And that's all I need. I'm going to go to my geographies. I'm going to click on Pennsylvania. And then I'm going to go to my data cart and I'm going to edit my variables. I just need males, so I'm going to edit that under sex. And then in occupation, I'm going to scroll down, unclick everything. And then in occupation, I really only want the professional level. Scroll down here. Scroll up here. You can choose. Gosh, no, I made a mistake. I can't even find it. I'll have to look closer. But it just allows you, even go through, you can go in and choose all of them if you don't have time to look. And then you can go to table layout, and this is where you find out how you want it to look. So I'm actually going to put the occupation in the column. And I'm going to move sex actually down to not on table because they're all males. And I'm going to put the geographies in the columns. The question marks just let you know that the data will be populated from there when you're ready. So if it looks like the table that you're looking for, and then from there you can view table and it pulls it up. And then you can go through and hopefully you'll be able to find the web developers better than I was able to now that it's been pulled in. But this just gives you a different option. You can go in and look and say, oh, post-secondary teachers that are male, there's 45,697. So this just gives you a different way. If you're not able to find the estimates that you want, that they will be available for in some way if you wanted to go the custom tabulation route. All right, so the last thing is here's my information. If you have any questions, I'd be delighted to answer them for you now, or if you have, if you think of them later, please just send me an email. I'd love to help out.
All right, Keneen, it seems like we have quite a bit of a combination of questions and feedback.
Sure.
So Nate says, I tried data.census.gov for PA counties and found the download did not sort county name in alphabetical order.
Yes, that's actually something that came about from a issue with us in our database. The end result is we are pushing it live in the next, I think, couple of weeks. So it will allow for the geographies to be in order. That's been a real issue, and I hopefully it will be able to push soon, and you'll be able to get that corrected.
Yeah, he also mentions that sometimes the comments can be out of order in the CSVs that he downloads as well.
Right, and that was a big change that we had when we moved to more enterprise, so that all of Census is all using the same software, and the software that we moved to was not as as flexible as the one that we were using. So we've had to do a lot of post-editing as we've been going, and this one has been a big one. So I hopefully it's been a process. So hopefully it'll be fixed. Like I said, I think it's in 2 weeks that it should be pushed out live. But apologies for that. But hopefully that'll hit the mark for you.
Yeah, thank you. So kind of following up on that of what you're talking about in terms of rolling out new features, Jake mentions that there's a lot of odd quirks and sometimes bugs in searching for data. Are there any plans to make searching like more user-friendly?
Yes, yes, there are. I think some of we are trying to, first off, it's trying to get the pattern of things. We've left it open to people who are new to the site, so they may be coming in and just want a poverty estimate. But if you're specifically looking for, a 5-year 2018 poverty estimate, then you really need to do more of survey based first and then going on. But we haven't been explicit in that because some people don't know about those things enough about it. But yeah, we are working on making sure and shoring up the tagging that people put their topics to certain tables to see what comes up first. So all of those things are things we're trying to review and make sure that there's consistency because of the amount of hands that are in it before it gets to us. But no, it's a good point, and definitely it's something we are working on.
Awesome. Someone mentioned that downloads sometimes don't have GeoIDs, and that can be important for linking to shape files. So
okay.
Mention there.
No, if you do see that, let us know the specific instance, and we can go back and make sure. They should have GeoIDs with the downloads, but if they don't, like I said, let us know. We can look into it.
Awesome. Sarah asks, can you combine multiple metro areas in the business builder?
I don't know. We'd have to send that to Andy Haight, who could let us know about that.
Yeah, and Andy will be presenting later today, so that's definitely a question we can ask later this afternoon. Could you create a feedback form? I don't always have access to email. So is there an actual form on the site that someone can submit through?
There isn't, but there is this, and that's a good point. Hold on, let me show you this really quickly on the site. If you go to ask.census, there is a form that gets directly to us, if that helps. So it's called ask.census.gov. And on the left-hand side, send a message right here. You can fill out the information, and when you put in your topic, you can put data.census.gov, and it'll go directly to us like an email. Yeah, it's just another way of doing it, but it's a good point. I think we have plans to have something that's more direct on the website. Maybe pull it down and do more of a form in the coming. I just don't know when it's coming now.
Okay, great. Someone asked if you could download the mapping data as shapefiles.
You can do that in our Tiger Web Services, and I can provide some links, but you can't do it right now in data.census.gov. But that's a good point. I've heard some people asking for that, and I'd love to have that kind of one-stop shopping right there. Would be nice.
Yes. As a GIS user, I agree.
Okay, good. I'll put 2 people saying that, right?
Yes. So Sarah asks, what's the difference between microdata and PUMs?
It's the same thing. It's public use microdata, and then it's the same thing. all we're doing is using that file, so you don't have to download it and then use your own statistical software to do it. There is no difference between doing that yourself and us doing it. It's just an easy tool.
Great. And then Dr. Portland wants to know when the PDF function might be enabled for exporting.
I would like to know that too. I don't know. I don't like it that it's there and it's grayed out, because it's even more infuriating. I don't know. I've been pushing that we can have, because right now when you go to something like all counties in Texas, that definitely isn't going to come up. And the data that would come back from that, it would force, oh, and now it comes up, or for 5 year, that it says that you can only go to download the table. When you download the table, it's just that flat file. I want the ability to at least have an export. So I've been pushing that, but I'll have to circle back with Jennifer when I hear some more and let y'all know, because I'm hoping that there's more to be done. I think people still want to be able to see things in a table display, and not just as a flat file.
All right, and then someone mentioned that feedback form, it would be great to link that straight from data.census.gov.
Yeah, that's a good idea. It's a little hidden. Like I said, we are kind of working for that, but I do wonder, that's a good idea if we could do that. We might be able to put that form directly on our resource page. I don't know if that would help, but at least in the interim until we can get something built. But where you can just kind of click and then submit something from there. That might be a workaround, at least for the short term, until we can get one on the landing page. But that's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's kind of all the questions that have come through for the moment. We'll kind of give some more time for others, but definitely a lot of good feedback and discussion. Some of the most discussion we've seen today. So you're very popular, Kaneen.
Oh, wonderful. That's always here in good ways, right? That's always good. So, but please, if anyone has any questions, let us know. And I'll also send, and I thought it was in the slide, we have a subscribers list. So if people are interested in hearing kind of the latest, and as we have these updates, there are emails that come out. So I'll make sure I send that to Jennifer if anyone's interested.
Thanks, Kaneen.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
So it doesn't look like we have any more questions right now, but I'll just give people one more minute. I just want to thank you again for joining us. And I mentioned at the start, you have joined us in multiple years, so we really appreciate you coming back and giving us updates and taking us through from the start, because as you are well aware, we have many new users each year. So a big thanks to you for that.
You're very welcome.
There's one more question, I think, Tim.
Yeah, so I think this might be the same individual who was asking about downloading the map data as shapefiles, but I think it's more of a suggestion that the map data could be GeoJSON, KML, which is the Google Earth format, or shapefiles.
Okay.
Just to give GIS users kind of a variety.
So Google JSON, or okay, got it. Right. Yeah, no, that's good to know. We do get a lot of requests for that. We send people to Tiger Web Services, which do an amazing job of that. But if nothing else, it would be nice to have more connected links to things. We don't want to, it's a hard thing with where we're working to integrate within census.gov. So we don't want to kind of take over all of the stuff that you would find in census.gov, but we do want to have those kind of one-stop shops. So, fine line, but we're getting geography that are definitely aware of the needs that people had, and people that were used to certain things, and even in AFF that they don't get now. And then obviously, like you said, beyond.
Well, Kanine, I have a question. The PL data, can we expect to see that through the API, as at the same date that it's going to be released in files, or like, do you have any idea of what the plans are for that?
Yes, no, they will be released in the FTP files in August. I'm not sure about the date, but they will be available in the API and data.census.gov in September. Right now, it's before September 30th. Last I've understood is September 16th, but that's when that would be available. And it'll be the full file. It won't be the flows as it has been in the past. It will be the full.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see those myself.
So thanks again, Kanine, and thanks to everyone who joined us this morning. We're going to take a break now for lunch, and we'll be back this afternoon. And our first presenter this afternoon will be Andy Haight. So thank you to everyone, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, Kanine.
You're welcome. Thank you.